Hello, my name is Eric Willison. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about defenses to evictions that landlords have to watch out for and that tenants might want to know about. A few words of warning: this information is only useful for those of you who are dealing with residential evictions in the state of Ohio. That's because I'm an Ohio attorney and I'm only certified to practice in Ohio. I am also not your attorney. I've never met you. I don't know the facts of your case. So you'd be unwise to regard this as legal advice. You would be much wiser to view it as information and of the type that you might want to share with your attorney who's doing the eviction if you think that this might affect an eviction that you're conducting or that you're fighting. Now, one of the things that landlords have to be careful about is if they are evicting tenants from their property and they fail to list all of the tenants who need to be evicted. Now, you can have a family of four, let's say, a mother, a father, and then a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And you may know the names of that 2-year-old and 4-year-old because they're maybe listed as authorized occupants in the lease agreement. But there's no need to put their names onto the eviction because they're minors and they're going to be going with the parents. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of unfair to put a minor's name on an eviction because, it's not the minor's fault that he or she has parents that either aren't paying their rent or are perceived to have violated the lease in some way when, of course, the minors have had nothing to do with that. So, and I don't know any court in Ohio that's going to say, well, here's this 14-year-old and you knew about him, but you didn't include him on the eviction, so he gets to stay. Never seen a court that would be willing to do that. So you don't have to put the minors and their names on the eviction as parties. But let's say these people aren't minors. Let's say they are adult children. Let's say they are the aunt or the grandma. And they're listed on the lease either as tenants or maybe more likely as authorized occupants. Then you better list everybody. And because if you don't, then when they come to do the set-out, that set-out's only going to be good against the named adults on the lease. Now there's an exception to this if you don't know the names of the people that are there in addition to the tenants and the authorized occupants. Let's say that the whole reason you're trying to get rid of somebody is because that somebody has an unauthorized occupant and you don't have any idea what the person's name is. So in that situation, you would say, this is Larry Landlord versus Thomas Tenant, who you know the name of, and then you would put and all other occupants. Now, in fact, it's probably a good idea to put and all other occupants even if there's only one person there, because you don't know. You don't know for sure that there's only one person there. What if you get there and it turns out that there's 2 people living there sleeping on the couch and have been sleeping on the couch for the last 6 months? Well, you should probably put on all other occupants. That way that covers that. But if you know these other adult tenants' names and you don't put them on there, then you're going to have a problem. Because let's say that they're authorized occupants, let's say you only have let's say you got 3 tenants, but you've only got a problem with one of them, but you really want that one gone. So you've got Thomas Tenant, Terrence Tenant, and Timothy Tenant. And the real problem is Timothy. But you don't really want to evict Thomas and Terrence, so you just put Timothy Tenant on there. Well, okay, so you get your eviction against Timothy Tenant, and comes time to do the set out, and you You go in there, change the locks, but you got to give a new key to Terrence and Thomas, and you can't throw their stuff out. And so all the Timothy stuff, let's say, goes out to the curb. What stops them from letting the guy back in? Making a copy of their keys, and he comes right back in again. An eviction is not going to help you there. You're not going to be able to toss him out again using the same eviction where you've already tossed him out. You're going to have to bring a whole nother eviction case. So you either get rid of all of the tenants at the same time and change the lock so that nobody can let him back in, or you're just going to have to put up with the three of them. Now, it's very important then to have a good grasp of who's in your property and who's not. So get their names. You should always ask to see driver's licenses at the time of the lease signing, because you don't know. If the guy says his name is Michael Miller, and you never look at a driver's license, you never look at any kind of an ID, well, what if his name isn't Michael Miller? What if it's something else? And the police come to, or the bailiff comes to the door to do the set out and says, hey, I'm here to set out Michael Miller. Then, well, you know, my name's Rick Robinson. And then he breaks out his, the person you knew as Michael Miller breaks out a driver's license that says Rick Robinson on it. The bailiff's going to say, well, I can't throw this guy out. So you have to know the identities of your tenants. You've got to check it out. Plus, you know, you also want to be able to know the identity of the tenant before you even rent to him by getting his accurate name. Because if he rents under the name Mike Miller rather than Rick Robinson, that's because Rick Robinson probably has about 13 evictions on his record. So now he's just going around letting on that he's Michael Miller when he's really Rick Robinson. So you got to know your people. You got to know their names. You got to make sure that you list them as parties to the case if you want the eviction to mean anything in the end. Because otherwise, the bailiff is just going to say, sorry, Charlie.